Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butts, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And I was like, are you sure? They were like, yeah. So because I doubt myself a lot. What I did is that I went to eat in a lot of those restaurants where the brand works, and I started taking notes of what I see, the service, what I think, how I think they can improve it and everything. I'm like I'm anxious person. So I started reading all this, the financial reports from the company, everything that they publish, every single thing that I found online.
That doesn't sound like a waitress.
I know. So I started reading everything to prepare myself for the interview because I was like, I've never done this. So.
Hi everyone, you're listening to Item 13 podcast, and I'm your host, Yom Tego. Every week, we'll delve into the world of African food, including chefs, curators, and bloggers. I hope you enjoy it. In this week's episode, I sat down with Suzanne Tiega, the founder of Zest Bliss, a creative lifestyle company specialized in hospitality and entertainment. Zest Bliss is a multifaceted business offering operational consulting in catering and event production services. Suzanne holds a master in international event and festival management. We met on a rare sunny summer day in London and had a great conversation on the important topic of managing your African food operation. Her expertise and great sense of humor made this a fun and insightful conversation. I hope you enjoy this one as much as I did. Welcome to the show, Suzanne.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here on a beautiful day in London. And we're stuck inside to talk about
not for too long.
Yeah, hopefully not for too long. So let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourself. Introduce Suzanne to the world.
Let's try to do that. So hi, I'm Suzanne. So I'm Cameroonian. I grew up in Cameroon, and actually I'm a restaurant manager, restaurateur, people would say, because I work in different fields in the restaurant industry, and also an event planner. So I do have a company that I created 2 years ago, actually, Zest Bliss, which actually helps chefs to organize events or support them if they already have contracts, or help them run their own restaurant. So it's quite diverse. I would say it's a lot around food. So that's literally me.
That's you.
That's so literally in a nutshell.
Let's talk about how you ended up in London from Cameroon.
Wow, that's a long journey there.
Maybe like a 2-minute version.
A short-minute version. So I moved from Cameroon to France because, a lot of French-speaking people, which I'm from a French-speaking background, moved to France to, study and everything. I didn't know actually quite what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to speak to people, and that was it. So I moved to France for 8 years. And then after 8 years of going to school and working at the same time and adjusting, I would say, my studies according to my work experiences, I wanted to go to an English-speaking country. So I just took the world map and checked which country. Yes, that's why I was like, where can I go? So I was like, US, no, too violent. Canada, too far. If I have an issue, I want to go, and cold, like literally very cold. I checked, temperatures. I checked everything. I'm very thorough, and it seemed very too far from, Cameroon or anything. If I wanted just to go and pop in and see family. And then, UK sound like the good compromise. It's not very far from Europe and not very far from France also. So I started looking around to what I can do as a master anyway, because I did my master here. And a lecturer of mine told me, the best way to know what you want to do next is to write down all the very significant events that you had in your life and all the moments where you had very great emotions and you felt fulfilled. And then you will see there's the common thread most of the time. And then there you can figure out what you want to do. So I started writing down what I loved when I was little, cooking in the kitchen, organizing party, massaging people.
Organizing parties?
Yeah, I love that. I would organize parties for my friends and everything. And so I saw all those moments, massaging people and all that. And then I sat with him and he kind of saw a common thread with it. He said, yeah, you should do event planning. I was like, what? Like, can you study that? I didn't know, because in France it's not very popular. He said, yeah, of course, in England you can study that and it's a real job. So I did apply and then I came to UK. And I studied, and then I was going to leave. And then a friend of mine told me, you should go to London before you leave. You cannot come to UK without going to London. And I came to London. And I found a job in a city that I love, so I stayed.
Oh, that's a good 2 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I did it very quick.
So let's talk a little bit about your master's. And so you said you moved to London, so you didn't do your master's in London?
No, I did my master in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Okay.
So it was really interesting. It was a 1-year master, which in France we don't have. We have in 2 years, so it was already surprising for me. It was very practical. I had a lot of guest lecturers that actually had business in events, or that worked in big events, because it was master in festival and events management. So I
master in events and festival management.
Yeah, international.
So
I know. It was international events and festivals management. So we had a lot of lecturers that were either lawyers that work in big mega events, or international, because it can explain the struggle that you have. And as event planner, if you're organizing, I would say the World Cup, for example, we had a lawyer that worked in the World Cup. So you have to think about the laws that apply when you
I didn't even think about that from the legal
even
aspect.
just the logistic. Also, they'll tell you when you have mega events, the logistic of sending supplies from all over the world, and then you have to pay taxes when you're getting in, but then you can have you can have discounts because it's a special event, all these kind of things. And he was saying, as an event planner, you have to understand that you cannot know the law, but you have to know which people you have to talk to, and you have to be aware of all those small pieces that kind of stick together. So the master was really interesting. I learned a lot of things, and I met a lot of people that are working in the industry. So that was really nice. And it gave me, I would say, more self-confidence in myself, like realizing that it's actually something you can get paid for. And so it was really interesting, really, really interesting. And I started there, I would say, I think I had a rough idea of the business I wanted to do there, because we had a modern business planning. So the whole year we're working, each of us, on a business idea of ours that was normally supposed to be viable by the end of the year, that we could launch if we wanted, instead of going to look for a job.
All right. So then you finished the master's and moved to London.
Yeah. Trying to figure out my life afterwards. So I moved to London, and I started working like a lot of people in agencies to waitressing, but I wanted to do just high end. So most of the time I go to the Ritz, the Mandarin, to see how it works behind the scenes. And I was just applying for jobs, and I was thinking, I'm not that competent. So I applied to be a waitress, to be honest with you, in a restaurant.
See, what is this thing with people, like low self-confidence?
I know. I don't know if it's a woman thing. I don't know if it's an African thing. I don't know if it's a French-speaking thing. Because when I was in my class, I felt like English-speaking people had that thing, that sass about themselves. Like, I'm going to open my business. I was like, you're just like 20-something.
I'm just going to be a waitress.
I was like, you're just 20-something. Are you sure you want to do this? So I was like, I'm just going to apply to be a waitress, and then I'll figure out things along the way. And so I sent my CV, and they call me back and say, don't you want to be a manager? I was like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah, that was like, what do you mean a manager? Like manage people? Yeah, you can do that.
That's so interesting to me, how like even your resume, your CV shows your your strong skills, but you yourself
I've never
almost lowered the bar.
And even though I had experience as a manager already in France in hospitality, was in a restaurant, and I was like, are you sure? They were like, yeah. So because I doubt myself a lot, what I did is that I went to eat in a lot of those restaurants where the brand works, and I started taking notes of what I see, the service, what I think, how I think they can improve it and everything. I'm like I'm anxious person, so I started reading all this the financial reports from the company, everything that they publish, every single thing that I found online about the company.
That doesn't sound like a waitress.
I know. So I started reading everything to prepare myself for the interview because I was like, I've never done this. So during the interview, we had I actually had 3 rounds of interviews. So I had one with the manager, then I had one from the technical team, then I had one with the financial team. And I was like, 3 means they don't want me, you know. And then after they call me, like, yeah, you're amazing. We love your personality. Maybe you don't have experience, but the technical skills we can still teach you. But the personality and the, you know, the right attitude, the right attitude that you had, we were very impressed because you didn't know anything, but you came and you told us, oh yeah, in your financial result of last year, you said this and that. I can see that this brand is struggling and everything. So I started as a manager and I had a team of 30 people. I know, right? It was a big team. I can tell you it was hard. I think the first 2 months I wanted to quit because no one would listen to me, but it was really interesting.
You were able to figure that's amazing. Hey.
Yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah, and I think part of it is it's the attitude, is the preparation, and like I don't want to sound like an old person, but I feel like a lot of young people today, maybe it's also social media that glamorizes things that don't, like, you don't go from A to Z, like you need to put in the work. Yes, right?
It's true. I think sometimes even myself I tend to forget it because like when I wanted to transition, because I always wanted to be event planner, so it just happens that I started as a restaurant manager. And all the time I was trying to transition to the event side of it. And I was like, I don't understand it. Like, why is it not working? But then I was thinking, but you have some skills, but you don't have yet the right ones. So you have to work on that. Yeah. And you said social media also doesn't help because people think that you can just wake up and be
overnight success.
Warren Buffett. You know, I want to be rich and famous as well. Exactly. It took him 30 years, maybe. Can you think about that for a minute?
10-year overnight success. Yes. Right. Okay. So restaurant manager. Yes. I know you eventually worked at Nando's. How did that happen, and what was that experience like?
So my first company, I was a restaurant manager, and Nando's also I was a restaurant manager, but the interest that I have, I'm a very curious person about a lot of things, all related to events and food and drinks, you know, so that I didn't pick it up before some people did for me. So I did in my restaurant was very sitting type of service, casual dining, and I wanted to have a different experience of learn from different people that offer different experiences to customers. And actually during my master I did a presentation on Nando's. Because I know, very funny enough, but I didn't know, because I was reading about different restaurants and different groups, and then I realized that Nando's is like South African Portuguese restaurant. Was like, oh wow, amazing. And they have restaurant in US and now in US, in Canada, also in India. I was like, since when do we have a big catering company that's African and that is proud of it and then shows and showcase it? So I was really fascinated. So I did a research on them during my master. And then I was 3 months in my first job as a restaurant manager, and I had someone from HR Nando send me a mail saying, hey, do you want to work for us? I was like, well, I've just started here. I'm not ready yet. Let's just wait. I've just been here 3 months. They offered me a position I wasn't even dreaming about. So I'll contact you later. So like, okay, fair enough. That's, good. I was like, I just started here. So after a year and a half, I'm like, no, I'm going to call them back and see, what it's saying. And then I bring her and she's like, we have recruitment days, come in. And we had a chat. We had some few exercises to kind of, guess your personality. And they were like, you're the right fit for us. And they were the right fit for me also. It's just a different style of, of catering or, restaurant and serving the guests. But the quality is still there. And I did learn a different approach to service, literally, and different approach to managing your team also, because the age range wasn't the same. I had younger people. Some of them, it was their first job ever. We had to help them open bank accounts also for a lot of them. So it was moving from a team of 30 people where a lot of them were experienced waiter and even experienced chefs, some way older than me. Some could be even my dad. Moving to a team where I was the oldest in the whole thing, and I had more experience than them. So I did learn how to manage different age
So how did you even, and I should have asked you this earlier, when you first picked up that team of 30, and how did you figure it out? Like just trial and error.
It was like, I remember it was tough. It was. I can be honest with you. It was really difficult because I went in a team where a lot, especially with the kitchen, because I think the chefs in the kitchen is harder for me to get along with. I went in the kitchen where they were all male. They were all over 50. And I was just this tiny small girl that came. I never worked in a restaurant, and they knew it, and they were used to have their own ways and everything. And they were adorable people. Like, when you get to know them, at the beginning, I just even couldn't get in the kitchen. Like, I would get there and they were like, get out of my kitchen. Yeah. And it was their kitchen, And like, why are you doing this? I was like, I'm just following the book, But then I started, that's the thing about me, because I'm very anxious, I do a lot of research. So I started first organizing the office for myself, because I like everything. And then I started reading every file from every employee in my restaurant, knowing when they were born. So I created a file with the birthdays, if they had any sickness, if they had any conditions and everything like that. So I started taking care of them, even though they didn't like me. So I knew, okay, this one is diabetic, he has to take his medication at 9 p.m. So I'll just go there at like 8:55. I'll tell him, get out, go and take your medication. Like, no, I'm busy. I was like, no, I know how to cook. I'm good to cook. You go, you eat, sit down, and then you come back. I don't want you. So that's small things that helped me. I think that they realized that I was caring for them. So I would stay there and help them. Also, if they were short-handed, I knew the whole menu. So I stayed a month training with them.
Multitasking.
Just in case something happens, you never know, because I'm always thinking that it's the end of the world. So I knew the whole menu, so I could support them also. So I think little by little, by just showing them that I'm not above them, I'm not the kind of manager that's just there telling you have to do this, you have to do that.
That's really good.
It helped me connect with them, but it took me some time. It took me a lot of time.
And then you're able to translate that in some ways to your new Nando's team, or they would do a little bit different.
Nando's was a little bit different. It was more of mothering skills that I had to develop. It was different. It was more of the mothering skill that I had to develop before getting to the part where I had to train them to do something. I had to be more listening and asking them how the day was, what happened at home, all these kind of things that I did it before, but people would take initiative to talk to me because I didn't want to invade them. Whereas in Nando's, they would feel like, oh, she's very cold or something like that. So I had to be kind of the friend, but still keep a limit. So I learned how to, be friendly enough, but not too friendly. That's what I learned in Nando's.
So then you do Nando's and decide, now I want to do my own thing.
Right? Overnight.
I want to do my own thing. I now have the confidence after everyone
and to do my own thing. So that was when I started being in Nando's, I had more time for myself, because I was at the company I was before. I was working a lot, like long hours, and sometimes even 6 days a week. It was enormous, gigantic. But then when I moved to Nando's, I had more free time, so I started going to more food events, professional one, trade events also, and also meeting a lot of African chefs, because what I discovered when I came to London is that a lot of African chefs everywhere. There's a lot of black people everywhere. I was like, amazing, So I started eating out and meeting chefs and speaking with them, and all the time I'll give them advice, like, you should do this in your restaurant, you should check this, you should do that. And they were like, can you come and help me? I was like, well, I'm busy, I'm working, I have a job already. And then at some point, one of the chefs were like, well, can you quit Nando's and come to work for me? And I was like, I don't want to work for someone anymore. I want to work with someone. It's not the same thing. There's just a small, slight difference there. So I always wanted to create my company anyway. So why not? It was just one time decision. I went home, I created my own company on the HR, and said that night, the day after, I was there like, Nando's, goodbye. I have to go and work. That was literally it. I had that was literally it. It was like in one night everything was decided. I didn't have a name, nothing. I was like, let's do this,
Okay.
So, but I had a client already, so I think that kind of helped me to move into the position. So I was full-time entrepreneur for a few months, and then after I was like, this thing is very difficult, and I didn't prepare it. Like, I'm not a preparation type of person, even though you might think. So I did get into it, and it was really insightful. I did learn a lot during those few months where I was just full-time working for different chefs, different people, actually.
Okay. And so you call your company Zest Bliss.
Yes.
Let's talk about why it's called Zest Bliss.
Oh, yeah. So it was a long process of a year minimum of looking for names. I take my time. I take my time. I started looking first for Swahili names, and then maybe Latin names. So I was looking for something. And I didn't know what actually. So, but then I started, because I'm very tall, I started thinking, okay, what do I want people to feel? Because at the end of the day, when you're doing an event, you want people to go with a feeling home, an emotion home. And I started writing things about the feeling that I like to emulate. And also I went back again to the exercise of thinking about all the moments that I liked in my life and how I made people feel at those moments and why I like those feelings. So I would start writing, just adjectives and words and then synonyms and everything. And also I tried to find something that was a little bit like me also. So I started writing, asking friends and sending questions to friends, personality questions to friends, like, what do you think about me? What's my qualities and everything? And ex-boyfriends also, like, I was just serving every single person on earth, my mom and everything. And then I pick up all those common words that they had, and I started looking for adjectives and synonyms. And then a lot of things that people told me is that I'm cuckoo, I'm a little bit quirky, I'm like weird. My mom would say crazy. So I was looking for all those words, and the word that came a lot was very a lot of zest, some kind of zest to your life, and I just like the word zest. And bliss is also one of those feelings that I love to emulate. I like people to come home and be happy. I always like to receive friends home. They have just for 2-3 minutes or an hour, you just forget whatever is happening around you, just enjoy the moment. And then that's how kind of the name came. It's a bit of me, a bit of what I like people to feel.
That's cool.
After being
That's
with
really
me.
cool. I always like to hear stories of how people came up with the name. That's really like you're thorough. That's
I think my
and
time.
that's what you're getting here. Okay.
Yeah.
So then, what services? Let's break it down. What sorts of services do you offer to the clients that come to you?
Yeah. So I would say I have 2 different clients mainly. I have chefs mainly. That was the first pipeline that I went down to. And the service that I offer are very varied. So I've worked with chefs where I just help them to pop-up events. So literally I'll help them from zero to finish. Okay. We design the menu together. We see how we can earn some money from there, the portioning also, preparation beforehand, breaking out the day, and then I also do the setup. I recruit the front of house, and then I do the design and decoration, and sometimes I also created some pieces myself.
Oh wow!
Because I just couldn't find what I wanted for the venue.
Yeah.
So that's one pipeline. Also, some chefs that have restaurants already and they are struggling, and they ask me to come and help them either just to train the staff or to really manage the whole restaurant, which is what I've done before. So that's easier for me. Or I just come like a one-off event to have them on that side, And now I'm starting to develop to work more with, I would say, public and personal people. So I'm organizing weddings now. Amazing. Yes, I know, amazing. So I'm organizing weddings now, and I have one big one coming next year. So it's really interesting. So I would say those are the two clients that I do have at the moment.
Are you mostly doing African chefs, well, it's a mix of...
So far I've had just African chefs. Okay, it was not an intention, I would say, of mine. I was just like, I want to help anyone or everyone, but I did feel like in the African community, there's a lot of struggle still there.
Right.
So that's why somehow it just fell off that a lot of people that come for help are African chefs.
Okay. And then how do you grow your client base? Like, how do you get new clients?
So far, I have to be honest, I've not been looking a lot. I'm not big in advertisement. That I have to say, I have to work on that aspect. Most of the time, it's really literally recommendation. Even the wedding was recommendation. I didn't have to send any email, pitch anything. I still have to work on my elevator pitch. I have to still work on the elevator speech. It's literally just meeting people, discussing with them, chatting with them, like, oh, you have experience. Like, yeah, I do have. And then they'll meet a friend of them that has a struggle. And that's literally how it works most of the time. Like, I know someone that can help you, and they'll give my phone number. And that's just how I get my clients.
With no work.
I should work on that. I still need to be able to, be full-time entrepreneur. Yeah. So I think if I put a bit more work there, then I'll be full-time.
Cool. All right. So let's take a short break now. And then when we come back, we'll sort of delve more into the topic of catering and African food businesses, how you create like unique dining experiences for them, and more into the challenges of starting your own business. Yes. So we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. So we're back from the break, talking about a little bit more about your business, but in terms of the challenges that you faced in running, like going from a structured Nando's etc. to like, okay, now you're the woman in charge
of everything.
Yeah, of everything. So maybe like, what would you say are your top 3 challenges in running my own business?
So I'll say,
and especially when you think about the clientele that you also have.
That I'm having. Okay, so top 3 problems that I did have is preparation. Even though I'm a Torah person, I decided to go in business overnight. Yeah. So true. A lot of things they say, you don't need money to run your business or anything. Well, I think when you're full time, you need to have a bit of security somehow, even if it's going back to live with your parents or anything like that. I would say in my case, I have a student loan to pay, which a lot of people do.
I do.
See? And so the glamorization of just being an entrepreneur, you're like, I work for myself. But then you don't realize that when you're in a big structure, you have a lot of cash flow. So even if you cannot pay straight away a bill, the bank knows you, so they're going to let it slide. When you're by yourself, you don't pay a bill. They don't know you. So I think you have to have a bit of financial preparation when you're getting into a business, be it taking a loan or anything, but you have to have some kind of net there to help you out, because the worst decision you can take are when you're like constrained and you cannot think properly and clearly. I think that's what happened to me a lot, is that at some point I wasn't able to think ahead that much because I had to think of now. And because of those financial issues. So I think financial preparation is really important when you're starting a business, and let's not overlook it at all. It's really important. Then the second thing that I say we have is that at the beginning I didn't have a clear idea of who my clientele was, so I would just meet people and like I told you, they would recommend, and I was like, yeah, great, I'll just work with you. And then being able to kind of set out who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with, because I've spent a lot of time speaking to people and then finally realizing that they were not the right fit for me. But I think if I did figure out from the get-go who am I, working for, then I'll be able to kind of, remove all the noise around that. This would be the second thing. And the third thing, that is the loneliness of it all.
Oh, yeah. I did read somewhere. I read somewhere that, like, there's a lot of and depression, like with entrepreneurship, that people don't talk about a lot. Like you said,
it's the loneliness,
the glamorization.
It's the loneliness of it all. All my friends, I've always been the like kind of the crazy friend, that goes and travel overnight. So I'm going there. I don't take a lot of time to do big decisions. So when I started my business, they all knew that I always wanted to have. So everyone was like, "Oh, it's amazing! You're a boss lady now, and And every time they call, they were like, "Oh, you have your own company. I envy you so much. I would like to quit my full time and just come." And you're like, I still have to figure out how I'm going to pay my rent this month, And they're like, "Oh, you're so busy. It's amazing." And all your friends would give you all this appraisal, and then when you get by yourself in your room, just like, I don't see it. Like, you don't see it, and you don't have anyone to speak with about your struggles, or your doubts and everything. Like I said, I'm a very anxious person. Obviously, like, maybe I'm not working hard enough, and you don't have a lot of, I would say, support when you're by yourself yet. And sometimes you just don't have the courage to go also in any networking event where you speak like that with people. So I think, it's very lonely.
How do you deal with it? Because I find that, obviously I'm not a full-time entrepreneur. I wouldn't even call myself an entrepreneur per se, but like even running like Essence 13 and sometimes with this podcast also, it is lonely, right? Like you go through all the work and then you post, like for me, you post it out there and not that likes are a measure of, or shares are a measure of success, but you're like, you want this story or this thing that you've poured your heart into to go to as many people, people to experience as much as possible, and you don't see that, and then you're just like, how do I
cope with it? Well, because I'm a friend of mine told me once that I have, because I think that I'm a very pessimistic person, but for me, I don't find it bad. It's just that I always think that it can never get better. Like, I always think that something bad is going to happen. That's how
Which is a double-edged sword, right?
Exactly.
You prepare for it, or it makes you crazy.
Exactly. So for me, the loneliness part, I was like, I'm just going to be depressed, and So what I do, what I love doing, is dancing. So that's one of the things I love, dancing. I wanted to be a dancer when I was younger, but my mom gave me a look, and I understood as an African cake from my African mom to like over my dead body. So that one I quit. But I still have a love for, for African music and dancing anyways. And I love cooking also. So a lot of time I'll just go in my kitchen and cook, not even for me because I'm not even eating it, or just give to my neighbors. So I find joy, and I think that's why I work in the industry. I find joy serving people. So when I feel bad about my numbers and I'm on my spreadsheet and I'm like, where's the money going and everything, I just go in my kitchen and cook something and just knock at the door of my neighbor and give it to him. I tip on that, or just go out, dance a bit, have fun and come back to it, And that was just, I would say, the easiest way to do it, or dream about, my dream house, how it would be, just kind of try to project myself in the future. But it's not easy, I would say. It's not also easy to unplug from it, like you're always working 24/7 almost. But you kind of have to work through it. You have to suffer through it, I guess, and just accept that those are the emotions that you're going to have, but then, stuck into it.
So then, like, what do you enjoy about doing what you do for yourself, and then the work? You talk a little bit about serving people.
I love serving people. Like, sometimes it's tiresome, and sometimes like, well, how am I doing this? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I think that I love having interactions with people. I love being able to understand them and offer them a service, a small thing that I would never think about. The company that I work now with, like my, I would say my 9-to-5 job that I do now, at some point I told one of the guys, like, yeah, I might be moving. I don't know. Like, I'm always moving anyway. And the guy was like, no, please don't go. I was like, what do you mean? Like, you're old man. Like, I love your smile when I come in the morning. Like, when I see you in the morning and you're smiling, if you're not there, that's not it, So when I see my manager, just like, no, don't let her go. I was like, let's be less intense. And those are small moments where I had a lot of my clients became not friends, but we'll spend holidays together, or they send me messages about how the kids are doing, how they're growing up and everything. And those are the things that I think are really, even though the day is long and hard, a good laugh with a team or a client, it's really amazing,
So now let's talk about your clientele, or in the context of African food, which we're talking about. Yeah. What do you see based on the work that you do at a sort of, I'll say top 3 again, like top 3 challenges that African food businesses face today?
From what I've seen in London, and which I think a bit in France also, and also in Cameroon, is the lack of experience. A big lack of experience. What do I mean? Being a chef is something. Running a business is something else. Even running the business as the numbers is something else than running a restaurant, doing a shift and, offering an experience. And I feel like a lot of people do forget that that's the biggest part of the job. You can have an amazing food, but if the experience, even the layout of the restaurant doesn't, highlight that, then you've done nothing. So it's great that we have a lot of chefs coming out now. We have a lot of people trying the food and everything, but I feel like that missing one of the biggest part of the business is to have a manager, someone who manages the business and knows how it works. You don't have to be the manager. You can be a chef and just find someone who's qualified to do it for you. And also a lot of people don't take time to go and work in the restaurants. So a lot of them will be like, yeah, I have a restaurant, I like to cook and everything. But when you go and actually work for a year or 6 months or just a summertime with chefs that have to do every single day, 80 covers or 160, my first restaurant were 160 covers. That means 160 dessert, and if you have someone like that can show you how do you send a dessert at the right time for a table of 10 people, for example, or anything like that. Those are skills that you can learn in the book. And those are skills that you can learn in your kitchen, home, cooking by yourself or cooking for 10 people. It's another level of skills that you have to develop, I think, to have a great business. So you advise
that they would at least spend some time
working in a restaurant, good kitchen, good restaurant. Also, like I said, I had a great experience when I started. I had 1 month in the kitchen, so I learned how to cook with the chefs. I'm not a chef, but I understood, the processing, the prep in the morning, how do you, what you can prep, like even 2 days in advance, how long you can keep the food in the fridge, all these regulations but in a more practical level. You work also on the floor to understand how you serve people, when you serve people, how to read the body language of the people that are sitting there, if they're happy or not, before they say anything. And then also the managing side of it, of like the numbers, what you record or what you don't record. So I think it's really important for the businesses that we have now to go and work in good institutions that have a good, good job and good standards, so they can see what good standards look like. Because in a lot of restaurants that I see here, a lot of them don't go and eat out in other restaurants, fine dining or anything like that, so they can see what people are expecting from them when they're coming to the business, you know.
Because you say that, and I think of a specific Nigerian restaurant in New York, which probably needs that experience. Because it's like you go to this restaurant. It's a very popular restaurant, but I'm sure if people listening who live in New York probably know the one I'm talking about. You go and like the place is half empty.
Okay.
So maybe you go during the day, whatever. So it shouldn't be busy. So when I sit down, within 5 minutes is long, but within like 5 minutes, you should come, like you're sitting at the bar watching me, like, you know, you can tell from our body language, like you were saying, that we are waiting for you to bring us a menu, explain whatever. That doesn't happen. When the menu eventually comes, half of the stuff is not cooked, not ready or whatever, then whatever they bring out is microwave. You can tell, okay, this is what we have left over. And it can be so embarrassing if you're bringing someone new to experience African food or Nigerian food specifically. That experience alone is just
well, I have to say, I have to be honest, that when I bring non-African friends to African restaurant, which I always try to do, I always tell them we're going to wait. Like, I just prepare them. I'm preparing you.
But that's
let's have a bunch,
though, right?
Yeah, I know, but I still have to prepare them. Like, let's have like a small snack and then have a bottle of wine or two. Sometimes it's even you have the time to finish 2 bottles of wine before your food arrives. You know, I remember once I was in the restaurant in London, I had to wait 45 minutes for a pepper soup. 45 minutes. I'm just like, what were you doing? Are you chopping still the meat, or what's happening in your kitchen, you know? And that's why I say it's so important to, it's not just about you having a bit of money and thinking, oh, I'm going to open a restaurant. It's being able to do a prep. For me, a pepper soup, you can prep it today and serve it today and tomorrow. So you should be just a way of you warming it up at the beginning of the service, having the right temperature, and, you know, having a bain-marie, which sometimes, like, once I talked with the restaurant owner, I was like, wow, you should have a bain-marie for your soup, and then keeps the temperature. Like, what's a bain-marie? I was like, what? Like, what do you mean, what's a bain-marie? That's one of the first tools you should buy for your kitchen, you know? So I think, the lack of experience is one big thing. And also, I think the second thing that I would say that I see a lot is they're not thinking big enough. You know, in our industry, not thinking big enough. And especially when I came in London, there's a lot of chains here. People don't, like, we don't feel it, because every time you go to a Nando's, you feel like it's unique. And I'll talk about Nando's. Every single Nando's restaurant has a unique design. You never see 2 Nando's alike. The design, the artwork, everything is different. Even the layout, because the flow for the client is different, right? So every time you go there, you have a unique experience in that restaurant. It won't be the same in another restaurant, you know. So I think the restaurateurs or the restaurant owners are not thinking big enough. It's like, how can I create an empire from this? That way, when you're designing your menu, you're designing a menu for an empire. So I think that's one of the things. We're thinking too small, like I paid my bills, I paid everything. You just say to me before off record, like, you paid your bills, you paid school for kids, that's it. I'm done. You know? And that's one of the big things. Catering industry is really big. It's billions of dollars. It's a big, big market, and you still have newcomers, and you still have people buying other newcomers. So there's big money to be made. So.
And especially now today, where people are cooking less for themselves.
Exactly.
You know? And so there's
many options. You can do ready meals. You can work for corporate companies. You can even work in just, I would say, more industrial side of it. So there's so much to be done, and I think we're not grasping it enough. And we're not aware of the diversity of the jobs and, you know, careers that you have in the you know, agro business, actually, which is, you know, it's quite diverse. So that's the second thing that I've seen here so far. So I said lack of experience. I would say also, like I said, not thinking big enough. And the third one is, I think that those two covers the biggest challenges that we have in the industry so far.
Okay. And so based on your experience, if an African food business owner was listening, like what, 2-3 tips would you give them? Something they can do today to sort of change the experience that they're having in it, whether it's a pop-up, whether it's an actual restaurant.
So first, if you don't want to do it, or if you cannot do it, recruit someone that can do it for you.
Yeah.
That's money well spent, you know. So I think having restaurant manager, you don't have to be owner and manager. If you don't know how to do it, fair enough.
Don't have to be chef.
Exactly. If you don't know how to do it, recruit someone who's qualified, who has experience, not just your cousin or your brother. That's one thing. And that is going to make a big change because that person is going to come and tell you what's not working in your kitchen. It's going to help you recruit also new staff for your kitchen or not, and train your staff, because the manager can train your staff. And I think also automation, like having systems in place. That's one big thing that we don't have as systems. Because if you have a system that you know what you're selling a lot during which day, so you can order accordingly. Like you said, going to the restaurant where you don't have things on your menu, it means that they don't have any system to record the sales. Not properly anyway. So you don't need to have a fancy software. It's easier if you have a software because that does all the calculation for yourself. But you have a lot of books out there where you can learn how to do it on Excel sheet. So
that's an interesting thought, because then a software will tell you, okay, pounded yam sells X on Mondays.
Exactly. It makes you so a lot of, like when I started, I'm lucky that I started in big companies. So numbers are everything. Numbers tell this, all the time in entrepreneurship, they say number tells the story, So literally, when we're doing our projection, because one of the things that we had to do is when you're doing the rota of recruiting people, you have to recruit according to what you think you're going to sell. But how do you know that, So it's difficult when you're just starting your business to kind of forecast. But when you have already 1 year in your business or 2 years, you have a lot of data. Like you have like a gold mine there of data. You should have a lot of data, because every single day you should record how much sales you made, how much tax you're paying on those sales. So what's the net revenue that you have? How much stuff you paid for those for that money? So how much stuff do you need to make that type of money? How much percentage it is on your on your the benefit that you're doing? And then every single item what you're selling. And every day you're going to record that, and every day is going to give you a picture of the type of food that people like and at which season. So next year, when you're like in May, let's say May, or you're doing projection for next week. Well, we're in June now, July, let's say next week. So how much do I think I can make at sales? Go back to last year. How much sales did I made last year? What did I sell last year? Was the temperature the same last year? Was it warm or hot? Or how was it? Did we have any big events last year? Did we have the same big events this year in the area?
Interesting.
And all that data helps you to say, okay, I'm going to do £1,000 or £2,000, and then last year I needed 2 people. Do I need more people this year? If I'm trying to see do 3,000, then maybe I need an extra person. All those numbers are going to help you understand your business and maybe make better decisions. If you see that you're not selling the Fanta, remove it. You're not selling it, or is the money you're making for me is not enough to cover all your costs. Just remove it from the menu. And it's not really something sentimental. It's just the data. Data telling you what you have, what is good, really what the good practice is. So I think that's one of the things, creating systems. I love systems because they never fail you in a sense.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good. Like I'm thinking about the idea of systems, and I think that's going to be a game changer between having a good system and a good restaurant manager.
Those two, bang on. It was going to take some time, but those two, because the restaurant manager is going to help you reorganize, reshape the experience of it. That's like what people can see, and even yourself, even money wise, because sometimes just one company can do the job of 2 people that are just half competent, and that's money that you might think, I'm paying him a bit more per hour, but actually how much faster can you send food outside? It means how much turnover. Like one tip also that I would say is when I see restaurant owners, and I say that's why you need a manager, is that you have to have a turnover on your table. So for me, when I have a table in a restaurant, I expect my client to be out in an hour and a half maximum. That way I know on the day I have a turnover this much on that table. That's also something. If you're serving me my pepper soup in 45 minutes, you've lost already. You're giving me 15 minutes to eat it, pay my bill and everything. My turnover on that table is ridiculous. So if you're having people staying on your table too long, then you cannot make enough money from that table. And those are small tips that a manager will know, that as a restaurant owner, you don't have to know. You don't have to. That's why I really want to stress that to people. You don't have to know it. It's fine if you don't know it, but just acknowledge it and get the right person to do it.
So is that something? I know you said you're not marketing yourself yet, but I'm going to do that for you. Is that something that you offer as a maybe consulting service?
Yes. Well, so I've worked with I had one chef that had a restaurant. So I did work with her, and one of the things that you cannot be everywhere also at the same time. You might have different projects and everything, and that was one of the things that train the front of house so that they can, be faster and everything, work with the kitchen. And yes, that's something that I do offer because that's something that I know literally how to do. So that's not really difficult for me to
I know, you're just
sit down.
up all the
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. I can just sit down in the restaurant and tell you, okay, I know this is happening in your kitchen. I know this is wrong. I know, legislation wise, I can see, I can see literally what's wrong and,
I
and
think
help
it's
you
a
work
really
on that.
important and it's a real key, hopefully a real key differentiator for African, because I think we don't do well in the service experience.
No,
we don't do a really good job. Like the food is great, but that only gets you so far.
Exactly. But it's because they don't think about it. And that's why I say if you have a restaurant and you're a restaurant owner or a chef, you should be eating out at least once a month in another restaurant. And a better restaurant compared to your service. So you can see the difference and you can say what are they doing good that I'm not doing. And how can I translate it to my African restaurant and an African experience? It doesn't have to be an African restaurant. You have to go, I was reading the menu of Petrus. It's a restaurant from Gordon Ramsay, You have a glass of Petrus that are £900, just one glass of wine. For people to go and pay that kind of 900, you understand? So for me, I was like, okay, I need to go and eat there. I don't still have that kind of money, but I know that service-wise, if they're offering you a glass of wine at £900, it's something they're doing right. And people are going there. Petrus has been open for years and years, I think more than 20 years. So there's something that they're doing right for people to be able to just pay £900 for a glass of wine. Let's not even count the food. Like, it's just one glass. It's not a bottle.
I was going to say, it's not
a bottle. You can hear.
It's like, I've been talking to a point where I can pay that for a bottle. What for
exactly.
A glass?
So if you're a restaurant owner at your small level and you go to those kind of restaurants, and you see how they're working, you're like, okay, maybe I don't want it to be this uptight, but what are the small things that I'm doing that I can implement in and then make a difference, So you should be at a restaurant, and because it's very easy actually to do kind of like economical spy or like spy on competitors. It's very easy. In a restaurant, it's one of the easiest to do. You just go, buy, and you just go and dine, and that's it. And you will learn tips from them.
So much we learned here today.
Yes,
your tips. Thank you. This is really
welcome.
great. Before we transition to rapid fire, tell people where they can find you online.
Yeah, so far online, you can find me on Twitter, which is like the best place for me anyways. So Twitter at Suzanne Tiega, that's me. I'm also on Facebook, but I have to say my Facebook is like I said, my marketing is not the best ever. I'm working on my website, so I'm going to do a website Zest Bliss that's going to be coming out soon, but mainly I'll be on Twitter.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so rapid fire question. I'll ask you this first one because you just mentioned, I think I know the answer already. Instagram or Twitter?
Twitter.
Definitely.
I still have to figure the Instagram, the nice pictures thing.
So you were in Edinburgh for your master's. So
yes.
Edinburgh or London, if you had to pick.
Oh, that's a difficult one. I'd say London because I can meet a lot of Scottish people also here.
Okay.
I have a bit of everything here.
A bit of everything, okay. Buffet or a la carte?
A la carte.
Red wine or white wine?
Ooh, it depends with what. But I'll say red wine is healthier, less sugar. So it will be a healthier option.
All right. Coffee or tea?
Let's go for tea. I'm English.
Dine in or take out?
Dine in. Always.
Yeah.
All the way out.
Sweet or salty?
Salty. Always.
Morning person or night person?
Night. Morning. I'm a zombie until 10 a.m.
If you had to live on one dish for the rest of your life, what would that be?
One dish?
Yeah.
Ooh. I would say peanut stew.
Oh, really? Like
yes.
Cameroon and West African
peanut stew is really good. But in Cameroon, we do it with okra also. We put okra sometimes inside, so it's quite diverse. Sometimes we put some vegetable, cassava inside. We play around with the word peanut stew. I love peanut stew.
Good. And then what's your favorite African restaurant or pop-up? Anywhere in the world. It doesn't have to be London. It could be Paris.
Yeah, I know. So I don't have a favorite one yet.
Because you don't want to mess up any of your clients.
I don't have a favorite one yet because I still have to find the right combination of, I would say, food experience, good service, and also the consistencies of it all.
That's a good call.
So, because you have to be able to go many times there and still find the same service and the same quality. And I feel like that's also one thing that's missing a lot. So I still have to find a good one. But I'm looking forward to try some because I've not tried everyone yet. But consistency. But I don't have a favorite one, to be honest with you, because I feel like we don't have the right mix yet of all those three elements.
We'll need to come back and ask you like a year from now if you found the right one. Okay, thank you so much. This is like
thank you for having me.
And I know the people that are listening, especially those that own African restaurants or do pop-ups, etc., will have learned some tips today that they can.
I hope also. Maybe I should do a Twitter thread about
helpful.
Things to know.
Yeah, this is good. All right, thanks guys. This is the end of the episode. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Item 13, an Essence 13 production. If you like the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. To keep up to date on news and events from Essence 13, please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Essence and the number 13. Thank you.